If you do not depart with that dog, I shall have no choice but to summon security." The manager called out across the restaurant with a commanding presence. The seasoned veteran remained silent. He gracefully leaned down, tenderly caressing the vest adorned with the words, "Service Dog." Yet, within a mere 2 hours, an enchanting hush enveloped the room as a contingent of U.S. Marines gracefully entered. What drew them here? And what transpired next that rendered all in attendance utterly speechless? Welcome to Great Man, where we shall unveil the truths that lie beneath the surface. Thomas Carson, at the age of 62, was a retired Marine, his deep-set eyes reflecting a lifetime of experiences that had weighed heavily upon him. His silver hair remained impeccably trimmed, a nod to discipline, while he moved with a subtle limp, a testament to the fragments of his soul he had surrendered on distant shores. For 8 years, his unwavering companion had been Shadow, a Belgian Malinois with soulful eyes and a distinguished graying muzzle, adorned in a vest that proudly proclaimed his role as a service dog. Please refrain from distractions. Shadow was no ordinary service dog. He guided Thomas through the shadows of his PTSD, perceiving the whispers of impending anxiety before Thomas himself could discern their presence. The dog had been lovingly trained to apply a gentle pressure against Daniel's leg whenever his breathing shifted or his hands began to tremble, these tender interventions having gracefully averted countless public episodes. On this enchanting Tuesday, Thomas stepped into the Blue Water Grill, a charming eatery celebrated for its exquisite seafood offerings. He sought a secluded corner table, distanced from the bustling crowds. Shadow nestled gracefully beneath the table, ideally situated between Daniel's feet, almost undetectable to the other patrons. The young waitress offered a gentle smile as she presented water and a menu, yet her demeanor shifted upon catching sight of Shadow. Silently, she pivoted and glided toward the back office. Moments later, a gentleman in his 30s, adorned with a manager's badge, gracefully approached the table, his expression marked by a resolute disapproval. "My dear sir, I regret to inform you that we uphold a strict policy regarding pets in our esteemed dining establishment," he declared, his voice carrying gently to the ears of those at nearby tables. Thomas gazed upward with a serene composure. "Shadow is not merely a pet. He is a service animal," he gently elaborated, as he reached into his pocket to retrieve the official certification. The manager gracefully dismissed the paperwork, not even casting a glance in its direction. "Guidelines are to be respected. We must adhere to health codes, as the comfort of our fellow guests is of utmost importance." A woman at a nearby table, adorned in exquisite designer sunglasses, offered a graceful nod of agreement. "Indeed, a dog is simply a dog, whether adorned in military garb or not," she mused to her companion, her voice just soft enough for Thomas to catch the words. The air surrounding them became charged with an unspoken intensity. Other diners feigned interest in their meals, yet their eyes danced with curiosity, drawn to the delicate tension of the unfolding confrontation. Thomas gazed down at Shadow, who stood utterly composed, conditioned to remain unperturbed by the subtle strains in his handler's tone. After a brief pause, Thomas lifted his gaze to connect with the managers. "This noble dog rescued me from the flames and bravely shielded me from the enemy's fire," he murmured softly. "I shall not forsake him simply because another deems his presence a burden," the manager declared, arms crossed with a resolute elegance. "Then you are aware of the path you must take." Thomas rose gracefully, his composure unwavering even in the face of public humiliation. Shadow rose with graceful precision, steadfastly remaining by Daniel's side as they strolled out, acutely aware of the weight of inquisitive gazes trailing behind them. As they passed the restaurant, an elderly couple, having observed the tender exchange, hurried by Daniel, their heads lowered in a quiet gesture of understanding. The husband exchanged a fleeting glance, a moment of unspoken connection, yet they chose to remain silent. They had been instructed to avoid drawing attention to themselves. At the threshold, a cluster of college students gathered closely, one among them subtly capturing the moment with his phone. "Take a look. The elderly gentleman believes his emotional support pet possesses the qualities of a special forces companion." One chuckled softly, perhaps another soul grappling with the shadows of past battles. His companion chuckled softly. "My cousin has a rather anxious little hamster. Perhaps we ought to adorn it with a charming camo vest. Thomas caught the murmurs, yet he continued on his path, his jaw set with quiet resolve. He had encountered far more formidable critics in Afghanistan than the casual smartphone warriors on the sidewalk. He strolled to a park bench across the street, gracefully settling down to enjoy the enchanting view of the restaurant. From the depths of his jacket pocket, he gracefully unveiled a wrapped sandwich, a delightful creation of tuna nestled within whole wheat bread, purchased earlier in the day. With graceful precision, he split it in two, extending a piece to Shadow with a gentle flourish. "It may not be what I vowed to you, dear friend, but it shall suffice," he whispered softly. Shadow accepted his share with a tender grace, savoring each bite with the measured restraint of a devoted companion, his gaze frequently drifting back to Daniel's face for subtle guidance. After a brief interlude of silence, Thomas tenderly reached for his wallet, delicately retrieving a time-worn photograph safeguarded beneath a layer of clear plastic. It depicted a youthful Thomas upon a stretcher, his form marred and his consciousness wavering. Shadow, with fewer gray hairs in that moment, stood watchfully beside him, the dog's fur tangled with what could have been the essence of his handler's sacrifice. Upon Shadow's neck rested the distinguished tags of Bravo Unit K-9 Division, sent forth to the enchanting landscapes of Afghanistan's Helmand province. The dog had been honored with commendations that even some human soldiers may never have attained. As passers-by glided past, they remained unaware of the unspoken dialogue shared between the man and his faithful companion, blind to the delicate blend of helplessness and sorrow that shimmered in Daniel's gaze. "Once more, we find ourselves cast aside, do we not?" Thomas murmured softly, gently placing the photo out of sight. Shadow tenderly rested his head upon Daniel's knee, a timeless gesture that remained constant, whether amidst the arid expanse of a desert outpost or the serene beauty of an American park. Loyalty transcended the boundaries of geography. A young mother gently urged her inquisitive child forward, softly imparting cautions about the unfamiliar men accompanied by their dogs. Thomas feigned indifference, having become well-versed in the art of being perceived as a blend of intrigue and danger. He glanced at his watch, the hour drawing near for Shadow's medication. The dog had endured shrapnel from the very explosion that had harmed Daniel's leg. They exchanged their pain management routines with the same intimacy that colored every other aspect of their lives together. As they lingered in each other's company, a city bus glided by, adorned with an advertisement on its side. "Let us pay tribute to our veterans, for they bravely fought to secure your freedom." Thomas found himself captivated by the delightful irony that unfolded before him. Though Shadow lacks the power of speech, his valor shines through in the lives he has touched. He stood steadfast by his handler's side, undeterred by the chaos of gunfire, the sting of contempt, or the weight of ridicule. If you hold the conviction that a noble four-legged companion merits our respect, kindly spell out ROCKY. 2 hours later, within the charming ambience of the Blue Water Grill, the lunch rush was gracefully beginning to wane as the door gently swung open. 5 men clad in marine-dressed blues graced the restaurant with an air of military precision. They did not cast their gaze about for unoccupied tables. They overlooked the specials board. They glided gracefully in unison toward the host station. The murmurs of conversation faded as the diners became aware of the uniforms. A child gestured with innocent wonder. A businessman gently lowered his phone, pausing mid-call. The captain, adorned in his uniform marked with the name Macmillan, gracefully approached the counter, presenting his military identification with a sense of poise. "I am Captain James Macmillan, the esteemed commanding officer of Bravo Unit, 1st Marine Special Operations Battalion. I seek the presence of Thomas Carson and his loyal companion, Shadow, the service dog." The manager from earlier gracefully stepped out from the back office, his eyes widening in surprise at the sight of the Marines. As they departed, he faltered, acutely aware of the many devices capturing the moment. A few hours prior, Captain Macmillan's demeanor was composed, yet his voice resonated through the hushed ambience of the restaurant. "Mr. Carson heroically rescued 4 men from my unit during a treacherous ambush near Kandahar. Shadow, his loyal companion, has achieved more confirmed saves than many a valiant combat medic. Shadow proudly holds the esteemed rank of sergeant in our records, and has been honored with the Navy and Marine Corps Medal. He lingered for a moment, allowing the words to settle gently in the air. And your establishment has chosen to deny service to a true American hero. Not a soul stirred. The lady who had remarked on the military dogs gazed into her glass of water, a delicate blush gracing her cheeks. A waiter paused in his stride, the picture still askew in his grasp. One of the Marines gracefully lifted his phone, capturing the moment with a touch of elegance. We are gracefully disseminating an internal notice regarding this incident to our esteemed veteran support network across the state. 15,000 members, ensuring they possess all the insights regarding the treatment of veterans in this place. The manager gracefully stepped forward, hands elegantly raised. A misunderstanding has occurred. We were blissfully unaware. But therein lies the dilemma, sir, Captain Macmillan interjected gracefully. One need not be acquainted with another's past to extend the courtesy of fundamental respect. The Marines maintained a quiet composure. They made no demands for action to be taken. Captain Macmillan gently set a framed photograph upon the counter, depicting Shadow in his full tactical attire alongside his unit, the word brother elegantly inscribed at the bottom, before turning to depart. As they took their leave, the diners caught a fleeting glimpse through the window of Thomas and Shadow nestled in an aged pickup truck across the street, blissfully unaware of the events that had unfolded. The youngest server, a college student who had observed the earlier confrontation in quietude, gracefully retrieved a takeout container from behind the counter. With graceful haste, she filled it with the day's exquisite special, added a delicate slice of pie, and stepped outside, her heart light with anticipation. As she approached Daniel's truck, she gracefully extended the package, a handwritten note delicately nestled beneath the string. We were mistaken. Kindly allow us the opportunity to rectify the situation. Thomas gazed at her, then turned his attention to the restaurant, where curious onlookers now filled the windows, their eyes drawn to the scene unfolding within. After a brief pause, he accepted the gesture with a nod that held neither forgiveness nor reproach, merely a recognition that efforts for reconciliation were being made. As the young server gracefully departed, she caught his words to Shadow. What do you think, my friend? Shall we extend to them yet another opportunity? The dog's tail wagged gently, a soldier's poised acknowledgement of a possible truce. Just a week later, a fresh sign graced the window of the Blue Water Grill. We extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to all veterans and their esteemed service companions. Suspended above was a beautifully framed photograph capturing the noble essence of military working dogs, their valor echoing through the annals of American conflicts, from the trials of World War II to the distant sands of Afghanistan. In a charming gathering outside the restaurant, the local veterans organization honored Shadow with a distinguished medal, elegantly inscribed with the words "Four-Legged Warrior," above and beyond. The dog remained poised and attentive throughout the proceedings, only breaking its stance when Thomas issued the release command. Students from a nearby elementary school crafted heartfelt cards expressing their gratitude to Thomas and Shadow for their dedicated service. A small boy approached with a gentle hesitance, gazing up at Thomas with eyes full of wonder. Is he aware when others express their gratitude? The little one inquired, gesturing toward Shadow. Thomas gracefully knelt, even with the stiffness in his leg. He requires no words, he conveyed. He simply longs to be near those who cherish the memories of his deeds. The restaurant manager tendered their resignation the day following the Marine's visit, leaving behind a handwritten letter for the owner. Thank you for imparting wisdom that no law book ever could. Respect transcends mere adherence to rules. It is the art of acknowledging the intrinsic value within others. The owner, a daughter of a Vietnam veteran, gracefully instituted mandatory training for all staff regarding service animals and the Americans with Disabilities Act. Of greater significance, she orchestrated for local veterans to recount their tales during the enchanting monthly community dinners. Thomas and Shadow became cherished patrons, consistently gracing the same corner table, which now proudly displayed a small American flag alongside a plaque inscribed with Thomas and Shadow, Bravo Team, Never Forgotten. One evening, the student who had captured the initial confrontation gracefully approached their table, phone in hand, yet refrained from recording. I have removed that video, he confessed, a hint of discomfort in his voice. and I felt it was important to share that my brother has just enlisted. I would desire for someone to hold him in high regard if. His words faded into silence, leaving the thought unspoken. Thomas gracefully extended his hand. Then become that cherished someone for others, in this moment. Shadow gracefully maintained his responsibilities, ever watchful for the subtle signs of Daniel's PTSD, even as the years gently unfolded around him. As they shared a quiet lunch, the sudden backfire of a car outside sent tremors through Daniel's hands. In that moment, Shadow instinctively leaned closer, pressing gently against his leg, offering a silent comfort amidst the chaos. The nearby diners feigned indifference, not from shame, but rather from a blossoming reverence for the sanctity of privacy. Once more, Captain Macmillan's unit embarked on their mission 3 months later. Before departing, they bestowed upon Thomas a unit coin, a distinguished accolade for those not in active service. Thomas cherished it in his pocket, a tender keepsake alongside the photograph, two symbols of a brotherhood that defied the bounds of time and circumstance. On serene evenings, Thomas and Shadow would often grace their porch, gazing at the enchanting hues of the sunset. Their shared silence spoke of untold stories, evoking memories of sun-soaked deserts, the earth trembling beneath them, and the haunting whisper of bullets that danced too near. Yet, it also carried the understanding that, at times, humanity recalls its duties to those who have served, even if the reminder must don a uniform. Not all who don a uniform are heroes, yet those who rise in defense of their comrades, even if it be a humble dog, are far from cowards. Though this tale may fade from your memory in a matter of days, without a voice to share it, history shall linger in silence for eternity. Join us at Great Man, a sanctuary where justice, kindness, and cherished memories are safeguarded for eternity.